I am your host, Amy Gray, and I'd like to publicly admit that my kink is Bob from Stranger Things. Because you're going to join us all on an evening of discovery, vulnerability and emotional nudity. Probably literally, given that Ben's up on stage. So, speaking of, we are here to spelunk the inner depths of two amazing, sweary people. You will note Benjamin Law, noted local homosexualist, writer, responsible for oodles of amazing feature writing and comedy and columns, as well as amazing books. So Gaysia, Adventures in the Queer East, The Family Law, also an amazing TV series. If you'd like to do that ugly honking geese laugh, I don't think it's just me. Co-author of Shit Asian Mothers Say, and the searing quarterly essay Moral Panic 101, which has just been kicking fucking goals everywhere.
Thank you.
But there's someone truly amazing in the middle here. Jenny Phang is a fucking powerhouse, SBS advice journalist, mother to Ben and 4 other disgustingly talented children. Jenny joins Ben in their hilarious and irreverent journey here, which has been encapsulated in this new book, Law School, featuring the best advice on what to do when you find a dildo in your brother's drawer, getting off to nature documentaries and dealing with shit housemates. This advice column has got it all, and thanks to The Lifted Brow, where it is published regularly, you can now dive colon deep into their best moments, and that's just the way they like it. So now, with those formalities out of the way, this is not going to be a usual Q&A. We totally want you involved. Now, throughout the day, we have been pestering you to send us your questions, and we also have staff who will be able to hand out cards for you to write your own questions. We would love for you to write a question that you would like Ben and Jenny to answer live on stage. And look, you can be totally anonymous, because what can be more comforting than milking your social and sexual anxieties in a large crowd of strangers? It's therapeutic. But seriously, have a look around. I'm just trying to see if we can... I think they're actually outside grabbing the cards. But I'll give you a yell when they're out, and they're coming in now. They have got pens, they have got cards. Please write us a question. You can, it doesn't all have to be about sex. It can actually just be about shit housemates. And we'll answer them throughout the night. All right.
Sorry, Amy, interruption. Excuse me, so my video, the red light is on?
Yeah, Mum's videotaping this session for her own private use. You'll all be a part of this video.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Make sure the red light is
Finally,
on.
I'm part of your private video collection.
Can I also just say, like, when I've been on stage at the Wheeler Centre or anywhere else, I'm a grown 35-year-old adult man. My mum is still in the front row, like I'm in a talent contest with a camcorder. So this is just a continuation.
No, the staff, any Writers' Festival and all that, they say, oh, yeah, Ben's mum, go right in first before anybody else. Get your best seat and get your video camera on. I always ask permission. They say, yes, of course. And then when I talk to other mums, they say, yeah, just tell your staff your baby's on stage.
She's my biggest fan.
That's the staff said to me.
Do you? My fairy godmother, it has to be fairy. She's an amazing orb-like woman who is perpetually drunk. But
love her already.
Yeah, she will actually ring up venues beforehand. Do you ring up the venues beforehand just to sort of get the lay of the land, or if you can record things?
No, but you're always first in line. Like it's always the short Asian woman in the hat who's the first. It's like Maya on Boxing Day.
Something on sale. I can't miss it. I'm the first one there.
But because, like you said, there's 5 kids, right? And I'm number 3. We've got another writer in the family, Michelle. She's number 5. Our sister is a photojournalist. She's number 4. Like we all kind of do stuff for Mum to film. So there's a lot. We're like Pokemon. She's already let us out into the world, and she's trying to collect us all again.
Okay, well, wait a minute, because normally when it comes to the family recordings and all that sort of thing, they lose progressive interest.
Don't you?
So my eldest sister, there was like 3 albums worth of photos. And then for me, there was a picture of my 2 sisters in front of a cot. You couldn't see me, but there was a cot. Your interest hasn't waned at all?
No, I'm very fair with everybody. If you watch Friends, that drama, Friends, that's a... what's her name? She said,
It's a
where are my
gritty
childhood
drama.
thing? Where are my childhood thing?
Which one? Rachel, Monica, Phoebe?
Monica.
What
Heartfelt
about
drama.
Monica?
Monica, she doesn't have any childhood things. She, confronted the dad. Why? Like, only my brother's stuff is there, not mine. Where are all my stuff?
See, what you thought was a comedy this whole time has been a searingly brutal
Monica, like,
American
when
drama.
Even the adult, they say, why? Where are all my stuff? Why just my brother's stuff? Where are they?
We watched a lot of Friends growing up.
Now, just to remind, I'm really not seeing our friends moving to write down questions. So,
This is like a sex ed class. You'll be bolted in though, and you won't leave until you. No, I don't know what
and
the format is.
unlike my daughter, you can't look to a pleading housemate to try and extricate you from the conversation. Well, actually, what kind of questions are we looking for generally?
Well, I can tell you, we can talk about the questions that we kind of get. So this has been going on for 6 years now, which surprises us both.
Yes, yeah.
The Lifted
6
Brow
years.
approached us, and I think the family law had just come out, so Mum's notoriety was kind of building. The TV show wasn't out yet, but because everyone knew that you were so frank, and then the Lifted Brow, Ronnie and Sam, the whole crew, they were like...
Yeah, Little Brown had the idea.
Yeah. And then...
How did you take that to her? I mean, how do you go and say, oh, hey, we've got an idea, it's just us talking about sex and stuff?
I'm pretty sure it was theirs. Look, my memory is like a sieve. Actually, it's more like an open toilet, but it's very unreliable. But they approached us, and I just thought, well, that's funny. That won't last. And it's like, oh my
I
God.
prefer the toilet have no shit in it.
Yeah, that's true, actually. And we've been talking so frankly for my entire life. Like even, I don't know if you want to talk about this. You probably do. But like even when I met you at the airport this morning, like basically the first thing that you talked about for 15 minutes coming in from the airport to the taxi terminal was about her bowel movements. And what do you call it when you overnight you still have a poo inside you?
Yeah, I call it my enemies inside my body. Overnight constipated. And then it took forever to land. And then after it land, like, you know how the toilet's always packed, and luckily this time it's not that packed, and too broken down.
Are you talking about your bowels or the plane?
Yeah.
Yeah, I nearly shit in the pants.
But you call it, it's not just the enemy. When you've got it overnight, what do you call it? Fungal.
Fungal, like...
No. Sleeping with the enemy.
What's that? Sleeping with the enemy. The enemy is a shit. Yeah, I think it happened to everybody. Like when you're constipated and then you're stuck there, you still have to go to sleep. Yeah,
Look, this
sleeping
doesn't
with the
answer
enemy
your
inside
question.
my body.
It doesn't.
Whatsoever.
That's the worst.
But what kind of questions are we... Well, what kind of questions have been your favourite, Mum? Like what questions have you liked receiving?
Oh, that's one question they asked, probably me, because Ben was so young. Oh, dear law school, is it sex, any, like...
Does it get better?
I have got that as a question.
With age.
Fuck.
Ben always very opinionated. He would pick all the paragraph and all that, but this time he just stared space, got nothing to say. Because
your answer was really, really thorough.
Is that very graphic? I said...
Did you suggest olive oil around the vagina?
My answer is like... For a woman, like after menopause, you'll be dry up. But the hole is always there. Stand by. Correct? Hello, women? And then men, if you can't get your dick up, there's a big, like you have to get the blue pill.
Yeah.
That's my answer. And then Ben looked at my son.
No, because you went far deeper than that.
Ben got nothing. Ben just stared at space and like, oh my God.
I think it was ashen face staring into the sun or something like that. Yeah. I mean, like, what was it? I mean, like, I'm just sort of thinking when I have a 13-year-old, and when I explained the whole sex thing to her, she begged me to never talk to her again.
So, and that was the first time you'd spoken about it, because you're a pretty frank parent yourself, Amy.
I mean,
Gray.
I'm a relatively frank. I am actually brutally frank, and we've had very open households with polyamorous couples living with us, and all that sort of thing. So she had some idea that this was the thing, but the mechanics of it, and trying to explain hetero and homosexual, because like when I'd asked my mother about it, I asked how women had sex. She said, "Oh, they just slip around." And, she went off. And later on, I was sat down and told that all lesbians were vampires and I was never to become one, which is why I'm now queer. But how were you given, I'm just...
Oh, yeah.
How did you give the sex talk to Ben? How did you explain it to him? Because you were saying that your sex talk was very, you heard it from like a sister or something like that?
Yeah, because especially the Chinese, like my dad's a man with few words, those typical men. So no, nothing from my parent. And growing up in Malaysia, we have a wet kitchen and then with the bathroom there. So we squat, me and my sister, she's 4 years older than me, so we squat and pee. And then I saw blood. Yeah, she had her period. Yeah, a period pad and all that. I said, why is blood came out from there? And then she explained to me, that's period, when you're older you'll get that. And I learned about sex from her. She just say, when you have sex, two people get naked. Full stop, that's it. She didn't give me detail. And then growing up, I never asked question, so she full stop, and then I full stop. I never asked her more detail, but now I ask everything. Lots of questions, never ending.
And do you remember giving a sex talk to, Gaysia, which is older sister, or Gorgor, older brother, or to any of us? Because, I feel like we just had that knowledge from day one. And I don't think that's an accident either.
Oh, because I love watching TV at home. I'm the TV princess. So, we watch lots of Sex in the City. Sex in the City, you don't have to have that talk. See, that's how you have sex. Especially with that Amanda,
Samantha.
Samantha.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. It
the
was a pretty
naked
good
body
education.
and all that.
And I remember, and this dates me, but for those of you in the audience who remember, Sex with Sophie Lee and Sex Life with Toddy Goldsmith, a lot of that was just family viewing for us. It came up in Senate estimates in the 90s, but for us, we were just like, yeah, that's great. And then there was we watched a lot of SBS as well.
Yeah, and back then you don't have that 15 plus restricted on the screen. Or you can watch when my children are growing up.
It was
pure soft porn. I remember my dad was trying to consider himself really art house, so he watched SBS, Mount Waverley's answer to art house.
Yeah.
And literally that answer was watching Dario Argenti films, and lesbians kill each other and all that sort of thing.
The Weather Woman Returns and stuff like that. The Tit and the Moon. These are really formative kind of filmic experiences for me. But Mum was often the kind of parent who, instead of saying, "Kids, don't look at this," would be like, "Kids, you have got to see this."
Very interesting.
So that spirit of openness, it wasn't like a one-off conversation then. It was just all the freaking time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first scene of the TV show The Family Law, and it comes up in the book The Family Law, is basically taken from real life, which was, we still, the 5 kids, it's been instilled in us that our birthdays, as much as they're our birthdays, they are Mum's.
My Labor Day.
Yeah.
And Tony, actually, when he read the book,
That's the executive producer of the show.
I said, women are born to have babies. If a man have babies, just a lemon came out from your penis hole. A lemon came out from a man's penis hole. That's how childbirth, that's how it is to a man.
And that's just And that's just kind of the conversation that we had around birthday cake.
And then Tony A this family law have to go on TV. That's what he said when the first season came up.
And so because you have 5 kids, having a kid is hard enough, but then 5 is just nuts. And because it's been such a big part of your life, we grew up with those stories. often graphic ones.
And I nearly gave birth to Ben at the back of the car. And when I arrived hospital, Nambu up Sunshine Coast, no time to shave, Jenny.
Because that used to be
No,
standard.
and then they used to be given enemas as well.
No, sometimes they shave you,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't shave you. And then I always remember, still like yesterday, no time to shave. Just right into the labor ward, and less than 15 minutes, Ben was born.
Yeah.
Oh, because no time to shave. See, Ben's hairline, like he shaved a bit. Used to be very low. Mom put hair stuck on Ben's hairline there. Remember
Your
the story?
pubes grew out of my head. It's like a kind
didn't
of
get
an
to
origin story. But yeah, I heard that kind of stuff, from like 8 or whatever. Like I just knew that story that, Dad was a lousy husband and he didn't really drive to the hospital in time. He picked up rice and Mum was about to explode. There was no time to shave, and you just absorb
My
that.
bloody idiot ex. No brain.
Yeah.
So yeah,
my dad.
Yeah. You really got in on the whole thing and you understood the story.
Yeah, and I feel like there was a whole myth behind each of the 5 kids' births. We all know the circumstances of each of our birth. We know what foods you crave during each birth. Like we've all got our little set. We're all a Spice Girl, essentially, but like to do with vaginal tearing and stuff. Yeah.
No, great. Yeah.
Vaginal tearing spice.
Yeah.
Don't let it tear, stitches. No.
You had stitches. Well, not
Stitches.
I
prefer
had the
stitches.
cesarean, so I was safe and intact.
Now I think the doctors, they're lazy because I'm a private patient. So yeah, my first, back then there's no gyno on the coast, so there's a GP, he delivered lots of baby. He's from England.
It's the Sunshine Coast in
Yeah,
Queensland.
Dr.
It's
Yates.
basically a developing country back then.
Yeah, Sunshine Coast, like regional area. Anyway, he said, Jenny, I'm gonna give the needle to your vagina, ready for the needle, and then you can snip your vagina, 2 stitches. I think most women, their first born, you have to have a few stitches. At least I had 2. Second one, I had 1. And then with Ben, he had the biggest head. He just
Still
popped
pretty
out.
big.
He just popped out. I'm like, oh my God. I don't want to look at my vagina again.
I'm pretty sure I heard that story
my
like
vagina.
first at a Hungry Jack's birthday party in primary school.
Later on, I'll share the story about how my christening was actually a drunken rut at the Glen Waverley McDonald's.
They were good parties.
They really were.
Yeah.
We were all raised by wolves. Just thinking about this whole transparency and openness about sex and about bodies, and given, Ben spends half of his time naked, was it a very naked home?
No, it's opposite.
We were all
Michelle
never
witnessed the
nudes.
eldest brothers by accident. Yeah, Michelle got a story like, by accident. The
Yeah,
big
but
brother came up
otherwise
from
it
the
was
shower.
like
No,
everything
it's not
was.
naked.
Yeah,
So
because
cover up. Just yes,
Oh my God.
it's not naked.
How
Nobody
did you
walking
become
around the
such a
house
nudie,
naked.
though?
it was because we went to Japan to visit my sister Tammy, my younger sister Tammy, who was living there at the time. And, there are onsen in Japan, which is total communal nudity. And it was a real schism in the family as to who was going to do it or not. And my eldest sister Candy, she was just like, I don't want to see your bushes, blah, blah, blah. That's my bush. And then Andrew he's a hygiene freak. And it's just like, well, how do you know that a man hasn't left diseases from his ass, all over through the water? And it's just and then rubbed his hands with Aquam or whatever. And then Mum was like, no, as well. So really the kind of opening up of my never nude career was going to the onsen by myself, and my 2 younger sisters did it as well. And I was just like, actually, nudity's great. We're kind of prudish in Australia about nudity.
Do you find Australia in general prudish?
No, here's a good question for you, Mum. Do you feel like Australia's quite conservative when it comes to sex? Sucks.
No, I think it's the opposite. I said the sex culture here. Especially you have a big night, how they call it, after you have a big night, and in the morning, who are you?
That hasn't happened to you before, Mum.
No way, no way. I'm not allowed to go out. My dad makes sure he had 3 daughters and 4 sons. Make sure all the daughters are virgin before they got married. And then lots of people ask me, how did dad do that? No going out. He lock you up, chain you up. But no pressure for me because I was born the most obedient daughters out of all the 3. My oldest one, but the middle one.
She's very Asian.
That's 4 years older than me. You can't chain her. She will unchain herself and go out.
We're not talking literal chains, are we?
No. Yeah, I already
Important
14
point.
and a half when I migrated to Hong Kong from Malaysia. Like, that's a... so I asked permission. I have to go to say goodbye, party, to see my friends. That's the only time I go out.
And to,
I'm allowed.
and to begin with, when we were quite young, your attitude was similar, like that we were not to have sex before marriage, right?
That's the no ring, no thing.
But
Thing,
now,
sex.
what is
no
it
ring,
now?
no sex. Now is try before you buy. Very important. Extremely opposite. Very important.
What changed your attitude?
Living in Australia long enough, like
You loosened her up, Australia.
Brings out the inner sluzzer.
I think it's very important because sex is very important in your relationship. So when you move in with that person, you get to know each other like inside out, at least for 2 years, then you go to the next level.
Why is it 2 years?
At least 2 years.
Wait, do you wait 2 years before you have sex, or what do you do?
No, you don't wait.
Okay.
Once you move in, you can have sex and all that. Yes, that's
But what
yeah.
happens after 2 years? You mean like to know whether you're compatible?
Compatible in the bedroom. Some people once a week, some people want it every day, not me. Your vagina will go bruised or purplish or what? Every day? I don't know, not me.
So, like, in writing the book, obviously there's incredibly different backgrounds.
Yes.
How on earth do you navigate that?
Oh, look, I think this is why the columns work. Like, mum is not just Chinese, but comes from, like, was raised in Chinese culture, and I was born in Nambour, like hometown of Kevin Rudd and Wayne Swan. Like, that's pretty Australian.
ABC, Australian-born Chinese.
Australian-born Chinese, and so obviously different generations, but that generational divide is amplified by a cultural divide as well. She's straight, I'm gay, at least to my knowledge, and so we come to it from very different perspectives, but we kind of meet in the middle as well, because we do have some things in common in that, like, you're super open-minded. I think that I'm pretty open-minded as well, and we're both frank about this stuff. So the way that it works is we get these questions from the lifted brow, and laugh a lot when we get them. And then I become like Mum's Peggy Olsen. So I am...
So is this over the phone or is it normally...
Yeah, because Mum lives in Brisbane and I live in Sydney nowadays. And so Mum, we pick...
Ben will call me up.
Yeah, so we've had a week to sit with the questions, and Mum writes, she is thorough. Like, I've seen her notebooks.
Scrap. Like.
It's almost like, when people are having a seance and they write, it's just like, it just comes out of her. And then I'm like, I'm so interested in what Mum has to say. And then I just type it all as my hair gets raised. And so it just comes out in this big burst. And then sometimes when she gets to the end, I'm still keen to know other stuff. So I interrogate her a little as well. It's just like, do you really believe that? Or if you were in this person's situation, what would you do? And then sometimes the answer pivots or it expands a little, and then Mum just like, you shut up now. Like, then she's just like, I'm challenging her too much.
And then a lot of times Ben said, don't type this down, people will come and kill your mother.
Yeah.
And then Ben said, oh, Mum, I have to type this down, this is funny. That's why at the very beginning, I always said, please don't send Jenny hate mail.
But I think what's been lovely is that there's only been this deep outpouring of love, and it's a good exercise for us because our communication is daily, but it's mainly SMS and a lot of emoji. Mum's fluent in emoji.
I love the emoji because my answer is very blunt, very what it means from my heart and soul. It's just very honest, frank answer. So much scare like people get offended because Yeah, my dad brought me up like very, he's a very private person. Even I commented on Instagram and all that, I have to like, okay, send or what?
But now it's really great seeing people's responses to, especially mum's answers as well, because they're like, look, I grew up knowing that mum was not like other mums, and I knew that instinctively that was like there are periods where you're just like, oh my god, too much information, but then you grow out of that and you realise, you know, like my whole career is too much information, really. And so, you know, this sounds really corny, but it's like, I really love that the rest of the world gets to see what I really love about mum, which is this deep openness.
And vice versa.
This is so disgustingly sweet. Okay, so, I mean, they can actually be really totally sensitive, though, writing about family, writing about things that have happened in your life or personal experiences. And, you know, family members can get pissed off and all that sort of thing. How on earth do you both manage that?
Because I raise my children, like, there's no secret with me. Mom is very open and frank. That's, you can talk to mom about everything. So when Ben write about the family law, he sent us manuscript and so get our approval, like every word. So then only go to the publisher. Yeah, very respected and all that to each other, the whole family. Yeah.
Because I'm lucky, I like my family, which is good, and so you know, that's not necessarily all of us, you know, and because I respect them, and the family law especially was written from, you know, a place of love and trying to honour what we grew up with and came out of. It was important to know that they were okay with what I was writing, and similarly with the TV show as well. Like a lot of my family members have, well, they get the scripts first. They you know, you've come to the script readings as well. Like mum is really tight with Phi Choi, the actor who plays the character based on her too. Yeah. And so it's a really I don't know, everyone's present for that process. The last thing I'd want is anyone to feel excluded from that, to the point where, you know, even mum acts as a language consultant with Phi as well, to make sure, you know, that the pronunciation or the slang is right.
Yeah, because he's playing me, so she have to record, how I speak.
Or the Cantonese.
The way I speak Cantonese,
All right, so hey, we've got some wonderful questions. Just want to remind you that if you want to get in before it's too late, we have Wheeler Centre staff who are just running around, and if you want to get your question read on air, we can do it now.
Are you going to vet them, Amy, or are you just going to launch them on us?
She
wrote all of them.
They are. Why do you suck?
It's all been a ruse. Yeah.
I hate you. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. But before that, let's just sort of, like, just so, you know, we kind of even the field here. What is the worst sex advice you've ever heard?
Oh. Do you have any sex advice? I think part of it is no ring, no ding. Like, I think that's terrible sex advice. And plus, same-sex marriage isn't legal here, so it doesn't apply to me. Like, what, I'm going to be a virgin for the rest of my life? No. I was rather
taken by one of the recurring themes in this book, which is your utmost concern for yeast infections.
Yes.
It was almost like back in my career days when, like, Korean drama, they were all about kidney infections, but you're all about the yeast infection.
Can I just say, I feel like sex education is pretty anemic in this country, to the point where a lot of people don't know that they shouldn't put sugar or sweet things in their vag. And, you know, as a brother, I feel like Tony Abbott's as a father or whatever, but like, you know, I've been that guy driving people to hospital before, and it's like those conversations need to be had. I feel like the worst sex advice is simply absent sex advice. Like, for instance, why were none of us told that you should all urinate after penetrative sex? All of you. I wrote this in a column recently okay, I'm just going to like phrase it so no one's. I wrote this recently to an edit. It's not Sam Cooney, but and I mentioned why weren't we taught to urinate after penetrative sex, and then one of the people who takes care of my work wrote back, and it's just like, why do you need to?
Oh, what?
Yeah. And I mean, look, you'll Google it later, but yeah, it is to prevent, like, you know, urinary tract infections. You don't want that stuff, like, up and around you, people. So I feel like that's the worst sex advice you can get, a complete vacuum of it. And certainly for me, you know, being queer guy, being queer people, we don't get any kind of education around that, and that's literally dangerous.
Yeah, it can be.
Well, did you have any bad sex advice growing up, Mum? Like, did anyone tell you stuff that you're just like, should not have followed through on that?
No, nobody give me anything. Most of the things is from TV. Quite educational.
Sex and the City and Friends.
Yeah, Friends.
Some documentary,
Torrid.
yes. Very informative and yeah.
Actually, one of the things that really educated a lot of us is whenever there was like a really frank sexual documentary on television, we'd kind of watch it all together. Like, you know, there were those SBS documentaries
Life of
about
a prostitute.
Yeah. There was
Documentary
like,
about
and there was just like
prostitutes'
anatomy documentaries as well, like all those German documentaries. We watched a lot of SBS. Yeah, that stuff was kind of interesting.
Well, like just sort of thinking about this and also thinking about your recent work about the safe schools issue. What is the best way to actually educate people about sex without them getting that 1,000-yard stare?
Well, the thing is, it's actually kind of baked into Australian curriculum. It's just that a lot of Australian schools and teachers find it really difficult to deliver what their obligations are because there's a lot of parental resistance against it. I remember years ago I wrote a feature article about sex education in the state of Queensland. So I revisited my old school, who was still weirdly on talking terms with me after I wrote this article. And because I remembered my sex ed was really not of a standard that I think it should have been at. And then I spoke to the staff there, you know, basically a decade later, and they really were delivering or trying to deliver good sex ed. But all it took was a couple of parents to say, this is not appropriate for my child, and they shut that down. You guys know that BBC documentary, The Human Body? It's an amazing documentary and it's got really matter-of-fact visuals of, you know, reproduction and all that sort of stuff, but it's also got, you know, what a human being looks like naked, and it's really just frank. And a couple of kids went home and they said, we saw a naked woman on screen. So that was shut down. Year 9 kids had to go back to watching Where Do I Come From? And by year 9 in this country, you will have probably seen pornography on the internet, and yet we're equipping them with Where Did I Come From? And so there is this huge kind of block against reality about what our kids are doing, what they are exposed to versus the resources that we're equipping them with in the school. And I think that schools do have a responsibility because Australian homes are ad hoc, you know. So on a very fundamental level, we should be expecting certain things that kids know about by the time they leave and by the time they're, you know, at certain developmental stages too.
Just for the Catholic school kids here, I was at the Catholic girls' school that I went to. We weren't actually...
What was your sex ed like, Amy Gray?
We weren't even told about sex.
You still haven't been?
No, I'm a virgin.
Reborn.
Yeah, no, always. No, always. Aurora was an immaculate conception from Satan. But no, we weren't even told about sex. We were just given 2 mice. They eventually had babies. Then the mice were killed.
What's the moral of that story? What should we take away
Hate
from
yourself. That's what it is. Well,
Breed,
it's just
and die.
Breed and die.
Yes.
It's the Catholic motto. Now, speaking of, we do have some questions. We're only going to be able to get through a few of them because, hot damn, I'm so sorry. We just kept talking. Now, I'm just going to give my proper voice here. Which sexual encounter would you most not want the other person to walk in on?
Oh, like any? Any? Like, this is the thing. People hear and know that Mum and I write a sex advice column together, and they're like, oh, you must talk about each of your sex lives very frankly, but that's just like for some, I don't know, instinctive and probably biological reason. And it's funny because when we launched law school in Brisbane, Mum made my little sister Michelle record the whole thing on the camcorder, and so Michelle was just sitting there with the camcorder the entire
right
time.
at the front.
And then someone asked me a question that I had to kind of answer with a reference to my sex life, and you could just see Michelle go.
Michelle reckons she's scarred for life.
But that's the thing, like, as much as, my three sisters, for instance, they talk a lot about periods and vaginal discharge around the dinner table. Like, they're really frank with that stuff. But as soon as anyone makes even a hint about their own sex life, conversation is dead. We're not having that conversation, or we scream to block it out.
Full stop.
Yeah, it's over. But yeah.
I love it when you have a conversation with a very, very straight-laced family member who's normally all about conformity, all about don't mention that, don't mention this, don't mention that. And then suddenly, he really loves it when I put my thumb up his butt. That's like amazing. I love it. Okay, not speaking about that, but another question. I've been trying to online date and I keep ending up on awkward dates with lovely but extremely socially awkward men. I'm a very outgoing person and would like to date someone who can hold a conversation. How can I tell if someone is social before I end up on a date with them?
Oh, Mum, how do you, if you were online dating and you were just getting a series of awkward men who are bad at conversation, don't ask you questions, is there a way to get around that?
I just say goodbye, I'm not interested. My time is so precious, just no, I'm not interested, just go away.
But should you keep trying? What if you're horny?
Oh.
If you're horny, you don't need to talk to them.
That's true.
Personally, I thought I'm asexual, but my Tammy and Michelle say, Mom, you're not asexual. You're still attracted to Roger Federer, and as long as you're attracted to men, you're not asexual.
But
Yes.
what's with you liking Dr. Oz?
Oh yeah, you have a thing for television doctors as well.
Yeah, Andrew.
Oh yeah, Andrew. What's his last name?
Roche.
Yeah, the Silver Fox.
Used to be
Rochford? Is that his
Project,
name?
and
He was on a reality program
I'm very
as well.
picky, and 007 I particularly like, of course, the original one.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery, and then the other one, the only one I attracted to
Pierce
is
Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan. Roger Federer is top of the list. Roger Federer. Perfect.
Wait, does that answer your question? What was
No,
the
I forgot.
No, but I want to take this in one area. If we made you a Tinder profile later on tonight, what are we going to put on it?
I've had this conversation with you, right? I want to put you on Tinder.
It would be amazing. Can we put you on Tinder?
Oh, I met some psycho or what? Crazy guy. Oh, because I choose not to have a man in my life
Why not?
anymore. I'm 63. Men, they're like Peter Pan, never grow up. Most of them, they're pathetic. Not all of you, most of them. They want you
No
to look
shade.
after them, have sex with you, clean. You're the cleaner, you're everything. Hello, I already raised 5 children, I clean enough. I'm like, oh, Jenny's free time. I'm the queen of everything. I'm the center of attention. If I don't think there's a man out there treat me like, you have to compromise, because Jenny don't want to compromise anymore, full stop. Go away.
God damn, I was not wrong when I called this woman a fucking powerhouse.
Thank you.
But Ben, how would you cope with, awkward chickens out on dates?
Oh, it's different in the gay world because our version of a handshake or first date is sex. So,
Yeah.
Really?
yeah. I mean, you went out on a date with my boyfriend. Mum went out to dinner with my boyfriend
Oh, that's
before
like a
I ever
mother and
did.
son thing. A mother and
That
son.
sounds weird, like we're sharing my boyfriend. What I mean is they
that's when
socialised
he's
over
only-
dinner.
He was only like a teenager. He's not even 20.
Oh, that just makes it
Scott.
sound better.
Yeah.
Like mother and son going out, just lunch at Sisala.
Look, most people are terrible, and I don't say that lightly. I just feel like, my single friends at the moment, it's a lot of trial and error, and the errors are like 99% of the people you'll meet until you meet someone who's like decent and awesome. And, you know, I don't know how many people this person is dating at the moment or whatever, but, you know, it's kind of the maths of Tinder, the horrible mathematics of it. And I actually think, like, for a while, if you've got Tinder exhaustion, there was this period where a lot of my heterosexual friends in Melbourne were just like, the well in this city is dry. Like, it is done. And you know, coming up to our mid-30s as well, what are we going to do? And then one of them decided to throw a singles party, because I think, like, on something like Tinder, it's one-on-one. There's a lot of pressure as well. There's a lot of pressure to perform on the first date to make that impression last. But if it's a group environment with people you know, it takes the pressure off. So this singles party that they held was, if you're single and heterosexual, it's very discriminatory, but if you're single and heterosexual, you're allowed to come, but only if you bring a platonic friend of the opposite sex, because then you can vouch for them. So everyone in that room is vouched for. Everyone's a bit loose. Everyone feels a bit safe. And I think the one thing that you can exercise in that environment, which can be hard to exercise on a one-on-one environment, in a digital environment, is charm and attraction. And the pressure isn't necessarily there to put all your eggs in one basket. And from that singles party, there have been a lot of marriages, there have been quite a few kids, and at the very least, there was a bit of humping. So, you know,
Nice.
It was a win-win-win situation.
Yeah. But also, if you're wanting to vet if they're appropriately social and able to carry a conversation before you meet them, call them.
Skype date.
Yeah.
That's a rule that a lot of my single friends have. Like, we're not actually going to meet until we have a Skype session.
I literally have done this quite deliberately. I have made sure that my face was all pretty, and then I've just downed a halal snack pack and a couple of beers on Skype. Like, you know, sure, I'll talk as well, but, you know, yeah, it does. You figure it out.
Can I also just say, the Skype thing is really important, because did you guys read that amazing news story recently about the woman who was catfished by a guy who basically downloaded this Eastern European male model's photo and claimed that it was him, and seduced this French-British woman into believing that they had this thing going on and they'd talk, and she was so charmed by his voice. Never Skyped, and her friends were like convinced this dude doesn't exist because he didn't exist. Mm-hmm. And then his world unraveled. It fell apart when she did demand a Skype session or to meet up or whatever. It's a really, really sad story. But then twist, she got in touch with the male model because she found him via Google image search, and they fell in love.
Hey!
It's such a good story. I don't know if anyone's bought the rights to it, but I want to fucking see that film.
This is really weird. So a couple of years ago, I had an essay in the Saturday paper where a dude catfished me on OkCupid. And because I'm a totally normal, not at all over-intense woman, by the third day I was like, what's your story? Did lots of reverse image searching. Found out he wasn't that person, because that person was actually a Canadian-Chilean film director. And within about 5 minutes, I'd found his email address. Within 10 minutes, he and I were Skyping.
Oh my God, this is yours. Wait, are you the person I read about?
No, but we had like a really fun, intense thing, and he's writing a film about that, but not from like that. It was just this other deep, dark secrets we actually ended up sharing with each other. Anyway, moving on.
I love that. I love this recurring narrative.
Yes. Okay, Jenny, when you were growing up, what were the commonly used slang words for sex, penis, and vagina?
That's
and
a good
do you
question.
use any of them as nicknames for Ben?
Family, growing up Malaysia, like your vagina is your bat, your penis like your goo.
So bat and goo goo.
Bat, that's your vagina.
Can I
Goo
say,
is your penis.
when you go to like a Cantonese-speaking country now, like if you go to Hong Kong or something, if you said bat or goo, would other Cantonese speakers know what that is, or was that a family thing?
It's a family slang, because like there's so many dialect in China, like all the provinces and all that. So I think every family, they have their own nickname for your private part.
And did you have a name for like a slang for sex or masturbation?
Or sex.
It's like 做世界,
in Hong
right?
Kong, yeah, we say 做世界, make out with the world. 做世界
Make out with the world.
with the world,
That's
the whole
sex.
universe.
That's sex. To
Yeah.
fuck the world is sex.
Seems quite ambitious.
But we grew up. It wasn't until recently that when you have the slang words for penis, vagina, sex in your own household, and you don't realise until you leave home that it's like not everyone shares those words. Like we grew up with doodle, with like most Australian households, and pippy, like the shellfish. Where did that come
pipi
from?
is a vagina. Probably from Malaysia when I was growing up. Pipi.
But you didn't grow up with that word in your family, so how come we got it? Mum was eating like a bowl of pippies the other day, and she was like going overboard with it, trying to gross me out.
Fat pipi, pipi. Don't you think the pipi look a bit like the vagina? Miniature.
But then what I realised is to reverse engineer the question as well. Like some of your nicknames in Cantonese for me or the other kids are really cute, and then I realised they're really like extreme or graphic when you translate them into English. Like for instance,
死校仔
yeah, say how Jay. Are there any Cantonese speakers here at all?
你嘅死
Okay,
校
so,
仔
so you understand what's going on. But does that sound like intense to you, or? Yeah. Because, okay, so say how Jay. I'm going to do a direct translation. Correct me if
like
I'm
word
wrong.
by word.
Say is dead. How is slutty. Son. Jay is son. So dead slut of a son is how she refers to me most days.
Where is the line?
In a kind of a loving way. Hong Kong people call you 傻豬. Like, yeah.
Soju is really
傻豬
affectionate.
Yeah,
What
affectionate.
does that translate to?
Dumb pig.
And so I actually tried to get that bit of Cantonese in the family law, the TV show, because if Jenny, the character, is comforting Ben, the character, I wanted them to use the Cantonese for, the Cantonese phrase that you'd use to comfort your child. But then we realised that's not going to translate because we need to put the subtitles up on screen, and it would just be like this really poignant moment where the subtitles would say, "Stupid pig."
I think the dead slut son is between me and Ben. It's not in every household.
That's amazing. Okay, we've only got 10 minutes, so I'm going to try and barrel through some questions. I am 18 months out of a painful divorce from the love of my life who broke my heart by choosing someone else. What a dickhead. Intellectually, I know I'd like to have sex just simply again, but I haven't any confidence. What's your advice? Just wait for my mojo to return or cultivate it again by some potentially bad encounters. Thanks.
Is this a gendered question? Like, do we know whether the questioner is a woman or a man?
I'm going to be a little bit heteronormative here, and I'm going to assume that it is a woman.
Should we go with that? I mean, because I think advice differs for.
Yeah.
Mum.
Well, what about you when you left?
Because you had a divorce, but he wasn't the love of your life.
No, like I married the wrong man.
Yeah. But then how, like, is 18 months, you're still like one party is still grieving for the other person? How do you get over it?
Yeah, it took some time. But like once you have like sex with that person, the physical attachment, yeah, I still remember that like grieving time, and took me like, I'm busy with all the 5 children as well. So like, maybe a year or 2, a year, not long. Yes, like I don't want to remember all those bad sex.
You know how she says not long, and I'm just sitting here thinking how it was 18 hours for me. But okay, so our friend here is 18 months out of a painful divorce, and so, should she just sort of
get out there?
Go out there.
I don't think you need to rush it, and especially if you're the one who feels like the heartbroken party. And it's been said, and I think there's some truth in it, that it takes you about half of the time of the span of the relationship to kind of get over the grieving process. So I don't know how long you were married, but if it was God, I'm bad with maths. But if it was longer than 3 years, there might be some more grieving to do. But if you, so one, I wouldn't rush. Secondly, it can be intimidating to go out into the dating world again, but there is also that awesome rush of realising that people are attracted to you. And I'm like, you should chase that rush because it's fun after you come out of a long-term relationship, right? I think, look, if you want to play with online apps, you totally should, but I also feel like you're not in this alone. Go out to town with your girlfriends, get a bit wild and, hunt in packs. It's safety in numbers as well.
Yeah, and it ends in the death of men, so it's like something for everyone there.
Absolutely, like you corner them and destroy them. Like you use them and then you destroy them. And the other thing, this is a bit of a sideways kind of recommendation as well, but like a few years ago for Good Weekend, I wrote a story about straight male escorts. This was a really interesting story and I spoke to straight male escorts and I spoke to their female clients as well, and so many women who spoke about how much it was a fortifying, gratifying experience. Sex workers on average also have more robust sexual health because they have more sexual health checks because of their work as well. So knowing that, going into usually a safe sexual environment as well, where you're paying and can call the shots, where they're completely discreet because they're professionals. I'm like, if you feel like it, go for it.
Get in as deep as you can. It's like a pool. What were you going to say?
Make sure you're totally healed,
emotionally,
both physically, emotionally. Otherwise, can be backfire. That'll be worse, right? Backfire.
Yeah, like make sure you're ready for it.
Yeah.
God, you're making me feel so very Irish and dysfunctional right now. Okay, we've got another one here. I'm 55 and in a great relationship and I'm mostly happy and content, but I have these intense spanking fantasies. Ain't nothing wrong with a good spanking, my friends.
Yeah.
Don't knock it. Got to say, do enjoy. I've always had them, but I'm not doing anything about them. Now, we're both poly, and I could act on it, but is it easy just to stay in the comfort and ease? They have tried FetLife, which is a fetish-based online community, and is just tired of the drama, which is a very accurate summary of FetLife.
The politics.
Oh. Should I do something or just stay with the fantasies?
Of getting spanked. Oh my God, just get spanked. I feel like it's like if someone doesn't go down on you, it should be a mandatory part of any healthy sexual relationship. Like, get spanked. It doesn't cost people much. It's just like a moment in time as well. And if you cup your hand just so, you get this really satisfying noise without much of the pain as well. I can show you at the signing table later.
Yeah.
But
I'll be on hand.
It's such an easy answer. It's not like you're asking someone to, I don't know, take a dump on you or anything. It's nothing extreme. It's just spanking. Get spanked.
Yeah.
And just ask for it. Say please if you want, or demand it. Just say do it now. Whatever your kink is. I don't know, Mum.
Yeah, agree. Life is short. Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that Tinder profile we're writing for you later on tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. Really? Are you going to allow me to do that?
Yes. Yeah, Ben will help me
I've got a really good app on my phone for taking photos, and we'll take some
left
really
and
awesome
right.
selfies.
Any in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Left, right.
After a few glasses of Pinot Noir.
Are you a TV doctor?
Just looking at the photos will be very interesting. Oh my God. Maybe some of them have to wash my eyes with Dettol.
But Mum, you've just recently moved house as well. So you've got your what were you calling it? Your castle.
My castle.
You can use it as your web.
I'm the queen of the castle. Yeah. I'm the boss of everything.
Yeah, well, that means you've got your moat, so you can kick people out off the bridge or whatever as well.
I'm going to give you all my tips afterwards.
Don't you want to share any top tips with the audience, Amy?
On how to get rid of people afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
So after you have that conciliatory, post-coital cigarette, and you're just ready for them to go. Not that I have, emotional or, intimacy issues. Just have the cigarette and smile at them and say nothing. And then they're going to make conversation and you just go, just nod.
That is so...
So what did Jenny do?
And then
Can I just say, that is so passive aggressive that you are basically Chinese.
I'm sorry, where do you think this fucking Catholicism comes from?
Like that passive aggressive.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. And then after that, dead to you. You don't recognise them when you see them at Footscray Station. No, I have never met you.
It.
Though someone recently smiled at me. This is the thing, if you do, and there have been times how there's grief bacon, which is there's a German phrase for grief bacon where you basically eat your way through your grief. I generally shag my way through anonymous sex. And sometimes it gets a little bit hard when someone smiles at you as if they know you and
you're just not sure. Did we meet at a writers' festival or have you been inside me?
Or has it been both? All right, so let's wrap this up. What's your best advice that we can all use every day?
Oh, top advice, Mum?
Top advice.
Okay, can I reframe the question? What do you now know that you wish you could have told your younger self about sex and relationships?
Oh, definitely try then buy. Try first. Try and try and try.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You're also very sex toy positive.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned sex toys quite a bit.
Sex toy, you can do it, you don't have to compromise, Do it at your own time, when you're in the mood,
You just come across a better class of lover when you're by yourself, it's true.
Yeah.
And what about for you, darling?
I think find your tribe that you can have these conversations with as well. And if it's not your family, because I think that is kind of rare and probably a bit weird, make sure that you do have those people because you will find them as well. It's a bit of trial and error. You'll probably turn a lot of people off. But I just find those frank conversations that we had as a family growing up, freaking each other out, having those sneaky looks at the joy of sex, as kids and stuff like that, that's kind of carried on to a point where I look at all of my siblings and their friends go to them to speak frankly about this stuff. I mean, as much as Mum and I are known for this stuff, I see my three sisters, less so my brother, because he's the one when my sisters are talking about vaginal discharge, he just kind of sits there as he leaves his body spiritually. But my three sisters and Mum, especially, they've imbued that on us, and it's been nice to kind of see that. So find people you can have this conversation with, and if they're not in your life, there are professionals as well.
This is very true. Words to live by. All right, so I want to get everyone to thank Ben and Jenny for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Visit wheelercentre.com for the best in books, writing and ideas from Melbourne, Australia and the world.